What's going on, guys? Welcome to Coraywood. You're watching another video on C++. So in this video we're going to explain what symbolic constant and macros is, and what is this is called included in the C preprocessor. As the C++ preprocessor name suggests, this is the starts at the beginning of the program. So if you guys remember, when we start the C++, we include this hash include, and we put an IO stream. So that's the C++ preprocessor. The compiler execute that preprocessor first. So the C++ has a simple mechanism for naming constants or sequences of commands, that is defining macros. You simply use the preprocessor's define directive. So it means that anything you guys wanna define in uppercase, so in a constant, as any other programming language, if you put a const, you guys can put this hash and define name and character sequence. So that's how the syntax for macro is. So if you guys, whenever you guys encounter this define, you guys think straight away that this is a C++ preprocessor. It might be in top of the C++ program, or could be inside the header file separate from your main file, but that's how the C++ preprocessor works. That's you guys put this always put this hash define and put this name in uppercase. Whatever name, you can put your name, and you can put a literal string. My name is, in my case, is Yazdani, or your name could be George, Michael, anything you guys, Laura, or anything you guys like. Alright, so the define is used to define an identifier and character sequence that will be substituted for the identifier each time it is encountered in the source file. The identifier is called a macro name, and the replacement process is called macro substitution. So this is called, this area called name. You can put a 1, 2, 300, 200,000, anything you like. You can put a pi, you can put a radius, and here you can put the in this section you can put like 1, 2, 300,000 integer, anything you like, as long as this is gonna be glued to this one. So as soon as the C++ encounter this whatever is written here, it's going to execute this one. So in our case we put a name, so that this defines a macro called name. As we said, that this define the preprocessor replaces name with character sequence throughout the subsequent program. So the C++ gotta replace whatever is written there with this name as soon as encountered the name. So when you guys put 100, say for example, you put 100, if you put a C out this one, and C++ immediately gonna put your C 100 there, whatever is written here. So the preprocessor is the part of the compiler that perform various text manipulations on your program prior to actual translation of your source code into object code. That's self-explanatory. So that's it's a part of compiler that performs the text manipulation on your program prior to actual translation of your source code into object code. As the previous videos we said that what object code is, and that's what that C++ gonna translate that. Alright, so we move ahead. Symbolic constants. So now we're coming to symbolic constants. Alright, macros that are replaced by constants are also known as symbolic constants. Unlike various variables which we declare on top of the program, such as int height is equal to 454, our string name is equal to your name, our you can put, as we demonstrated in last programs, we demonstrate int height, our width, our total, our value 1, our value 2. So we said that this is a data type, and that's the name, whatever name you guys provide, and this is going to be glued to this one. So we are giving this 454 to height, the name height, and its type int. Macros work exactly like that, but with the exception that macros, as you guys notice, do not use the equal signs or semicolon. So if you put a semicolon to end your variables, macros not working like that. So with macros, you guys don't put these equal signs and this semicolon. So that's how you guys don't do that with the macros. We can use any macros you have previously defined in subsequent defined directive. Example. All right, as we say, you can say define one. As you guys see that define, it's got a hash define, and we put a one in constant, like uppercase, and we put an integer one, but there is no equal sign or there is no semicolon to end the line. That's it. This is one straight line, and the next example is define 2, and the next example is define 10. So we put a define 10 and 10 here, so that's integer, but we don't put anything integer or anything in the front, so we just put a define 1, define 2, define 10. Every time the C++ compiler comes into contact with this, encounter this 10, and it's immediately it's going to execute this 10. You can put a literal string, hash define your name, and in my case that I put my name is Yazdani. Every time C++ encounter this your name, and it's going to execute this whatever is written in the literal string. Alright, so you can put a C out. As our case, we put a 1, and it's going to display 1, and there is a space here, and it's going to display 2, whatever is written here, and we put a 1 plus 2 is equal to whatever the thing is, so it's going to display 3 here. So because we are the C++ going to read this, it's going to replace this with this one, is that for the C++, we put a 1, it means it's 1, and there is a 2, whatever you guys put it here, the C++ assumes that it's going to be written like 1 plus 2. So that's how the C++ sees this, and the total is 10 plus 10. So as you guys see that we put glued this 10 to this one, and that's in our preprocessor with the macro, and C++ sees this 10 plus 10, and it displays 20. Alright, the C++ preprocessor, now we're coming to preprocessor as we said at the beginning of the video. Okay, that's following pro directive. Define is one of the preprocessor directives. The preprocessor is the part of the compiler that performs various text manipulation on your program of your source code into object code. You can give text manipulation commands to the preprocessor. We say it again. Okay, so as we said in our previous slides, that the preprocessor is part of the compiler that various text manipulation to your program. The reason I'm put that twice is because so for you guys to remember that the preprocessor is a part of the compiler. So if you guys might see this anywhere, so if you guys go interview or something, and if someone asks you what is the preprocessor, and you guys say the preprocessor is a part of the compiler that performs various text manipulations on your program prior to export translation of your source code into object code. Okay, these commands are called preprocessor directives, and although not technically part of the C++ language, they expand the scope of its programming environment. All right, so this is the table. You guys encountered this. You guys encountered the define, which we already explained that. You put it in uppercase. So if, and if else, elif. So if else, elif, and if def, if and def, they're all into one family. Into, like, say you guys consider there's like a if else, and this is elif is like else if. And if I'm explaining the simpler terms, like we also learned the program flow of the if else and else if. So elif is like else if, and if you go to PHP, if you guys go there and put a if, immediately you guys needs to put an end if to finish this end if. So this end if gonna finish this if. So this end if is gonna finish the if defined. This is if is defined. If in defined, this is gonna finish this defined. So this is undefined, and this is a line. So the line directive is used to change the contents of line and file, which are predefined macro names, line and file. So just remember that you put a hash line number, and then you put a file name. So that's how you guys do that. All right, so the pragma, the last one, which is pragma. The pragma directive is an implementation defined directive that allows various instructions defined by compiler's creator to be given to the compiler. The general form of hash pragma directive is pragma and name. So that's what you guys do, the pragma and name. In the next few videos, we're gonna go one by one. We're gonna define all of these direct preprocessor directives. We're going to start with define, which we already explained. Define whatever literal string here and whatever the macro name is. We put an error. We're going to demonstrate you guys how you put an error. Include, we already done include. Since the beginning of our program, every time you guys should be very familiar with this one, include, because include IO stream, include C standard file, include time, include date, include anything, include string. So this one very you guys should be very familiar. We exclude this one. So we're going to explain the define, and we're going to explain errors, if else, if and if def, if defined, if and defined, and undefined. You can put it undef, line, and pragma. C++ very good programming language to confuse people. So that's how they do that, you know. So they some of this is like in Python. If you go there, that's in C++, C sharp, C, I think C, C++, C sharp, and PHP is else if. But if you guys done a Python, it's elif. So this is very similar to Python. And undefined and line and pragma, as we said, the pragma directive, you put a hash pragma and you put a name. So name is the name of the pragma. So you guys can put a pragma, is a bit confusing. When we go in the next few videos, we're gonna see the pragma, and say if the name is unrecognized by the compiler, then the pragma directive is simply ignored and no errors, with no error result. So that's a bit confusing, but we are going through that, the same things. We're going to work in this pragma, and we're going to work in this line, and we else if, and if defined, if and def, undefined, line, and pragma. So we're going to work in all those these preprocessor directives. All right, I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.